Hey there, welcome back. I'm Tara from Wild Bird Farm. I garden here in Zone 5 in central Iowa. Today we're going to talk about Love in a Mist or Nigella and how I have finally, for the first time this year, gotten the stem length I need to use in wrap bouquets. Because of the heat wave we're having, my sweet peas that are out in the tunnel are going over very quickly and are going to seed, which I want to collect the seeds, so no problem there, but it is always a little bit sad. This will be my last handful of sweet peas that I bring into the house this year. I also put some peonies in dry storage, and I pulled these out just yesterday, and I actually took some photos every hour to see how quickly they would open. Now, some of these were fully blown open within an hour or two, and some took a little bit longer, but you can see now we are at a full day and they are fully open. And I did this mostly for myself, just for some research, because I sell a lot of my peonies to florists, and they will give me some idea of when they want to use them. So they might be picking them up one morning and they want to use them that day, or they need to hold them over. And this has just helped me see how quickly they blow open so I can get them to them in the right stage even after storage. So these I put into storage on the 24th of May, and we are at the 21st of June. So easily keeping them a month. Now I know some people say they keep them up to 3 months. I do have one more batch in the cooler that I'll probably pull out in a couple weeks just to see how they fare. I assume they're going to do pretty similar to these. All right, let's get to the Nigella. One more side note, I also put for the first time some Larkspur out in my unheated tunnel. And I have been picking a few stems here and there for the last couple weeks. Now, generally, I don't know what it is around here. I think it's because we heat up so quickly. But I can fall sow these, or I can late winter, early spring sow them, and no matter what, most of them are only 18 inches tall, and they blow open rather quickly. So I hadn't really used Larkspur before, but this year I am getting long stems. Now I don't have a ton of it. I'm going to try and save seed this year, so I have a few more. I think I just had a couple packs from Renee's garden that I put out there, but so far very happy with Larkspur in the tunnel. All right, now to the Nigella. Look at the stem length on these. I would say some of them are over 2 feet easily. Now we're going to talk about the varieties in a little bit, and I'm also going to put some video up to show you how I'm growing these. I think one of the tricks to growing Nigella is to really cram it in. I think if you give them a lot of room, they aren't going to get too tall, but if you crowd them in, and I put them in with Orlea this year, and in doing so, I think they had to fight to get up and get some sunlight. Here you can see it out in the tunnel, very mixed in with the Orlea that I am letting go to seed. I would consider these stems wiry, but I have never netted my Nigella, nor have I ever started it inside. I have always direct sowed it. While they are thin stems, they can kind of get blown around a little bit and maybe even be slightly laying down, and I'm still able to harvest them and get a nice straight stem. But these are a great length for market bouquets. And if you are interested in how I use these in bouquets, I'm going to post some video. I will do market bouquets tomorrow. I'll set up my camera here for a little bit and just show you. I like to float these blooms kind of up and above a little bit in bouquets. I just think they really have an element that looks really good that way. Now, of course, with Nigella, you can also use the seed pods. Here is one that is in pod form that I can use. I will continue to harvest these for a little bit longer as flowers, but then I will let them go to seed. One, so I can use the seed pods in arrangements, and then two, so I can collect the seed. All right, let's talk about the varieties that I planted this year. So in addition to crowding the plants to make them reach for the light, I think definitely the second trick to getting long nigella is buying the right varieties. Now I bought 2 different types this year from 2 vendors. I have grown blue varieties before. I'll put some video up here that are just really short for any sort of use except maybe some jarred arrangements. I did some research last fall, and these are the 2 varieties that I bought. I bought Bridal Veil from Renee's Garden, and I bought African Bride from Geoseed. Now, when I look up the names of both of these varieties on those websites, they both have the dark center. So to me, I think they're the exact same plant. Now, when you look at the specs, they are a little bit taller than a lot of the nigella that you'll find, especially the blue varieties. And I think I've grown the pink ones too. They just don't, they're probably like this long, not quite long enough for me to use in wrap bouquets. Interesting thing about this is while both of them show pictures like this with the dark center, the majority of what I've been harvesting this year is completely white. I am guessing just because Geoseed would send me more seed, and I know I threw down a lot of seed out of my hoop house. I'm guessing that they sent me African Bride that looks like this, and I am guessing that Renee's Garden Bridal Veil looks like this. So I'm not 100% sure what variety this is. I'm definitely going to keep my own seeds. But I think a key as you are looking at different varieties to purchase, you've got to get one that says at least 24 inches long. And I will write on the screen here what each of these says on the seed packets or on their website. But if you are looking at one that says 12 to 18 inches or 16 to 18 inches, for me, that just really wasn't long enough for my wrap bouquets, but definitely this year, these are. Now, one note, I have sowed nigella in the fall before, and I have some video clips here that we'll talk about where they self-sow really well. They love to self-seed, actually. These particular ones that I'm harvesting now, we put out together in late winter. I will look back and put the date on here for sure. I want to say it was maybe February or March. So still really good stem length for getting like a late winter crop. Now this year, assuming I can collect a lot of seed, I'm going to throw some down in the hoop house in the fall, and then I'm going to do that same thing and do late winter. Because this has just been really great for me to use in bouquets. One other thing to note, I have some corn cockle or agrostemma, and I have Orlea, the white finch Orlea, both in the hoop house. I'm trying to narrow down my filler flowers, and I think those 3 work very similarly, and they're all white. At least the ones I'm growing this year. Agrostemma also comes in like a pink and a purple. I like agrostemma more so for outside. Agrostemma tends to bloom all at once for me, so I really need to succession sow it to get the biggest bang for my buck. I do believe I prefer to put that out in the field. It blooms a little bit later, and so it's not going to be blooming at the exact same time as nigella, which is what is happening this year. The Orlea blooms earlier for me, so I will continue to put a small patch of Orlea out in the hoop house to harvest early. Now it is prone to wilting as the weather gets warmer, so with these 95-degree days, I'm not harvesting it when it's flowering. I will harvest it as an interesting seed head, or I will let it go to seed to collect those seeds. This nigella, on the other hand, has been blooming for a couple weeks, and I'm sure I can get a couple more out of it, and then most of it's going to go to seed pods, and I can use those in arrangements too. So I think going forward, I am going to put agrostemma or corn cockle only out in the field It's really tough. It can handle going out 6 weeks before my last frost, but I don't know that I necessarily need it then. I'll need it a little bit later after the Nigella is going over. So my plan for next year for white accent flowers is to do Orlea very early, use that early out of the tunnel, keep the agrostemma successions later to see if I can get those a little bit later in the season, like pushing early summer, and then do the Nigella for that in-between period. And I'm going to put up just a few bouquets here so you can see how I've used this over the last few weeks. I know this was a short video, but when I finally had success with something that I've been trying for a few years, I definitely wanted to share it with you. Stick around. We're going to put bouquets together using this Nigella to see how these just float above the bouquets and really add a special pop of white.
It was getting dark out when I did this the next day, so not the best lighting here, and I also realized I didn't have the best camera angle. But I'm starting with Sweet Annie, yarrow, and some sea holly, sort of to form my base. Those little yellow flowers are Dyer's chamomile, and I thought they added a nice yellow pop, and they're going to sort of bring your eye around the bouquet after I add in the yellow sunflowers. Here I'm getting around to adding some Nigella, and it's hard to see from this angle, but I do float it above the other flowers. I'm going to take some shots of the finished bouquets here at the end so you can see this a little bit more clearly. But I like to often work in groups of 3, sort of rotating that bouquet around and adding in those elements. Here I'm using one of the Nigella seed pods. Here are the finished bouquets, and out here in the wind you can really see the movement of not only the Nigella but also the seed pods. And in some of these I use the agrostemma or corncockle, and those really sway in the wind as well. Earlier in the season, Orlea can also fill in as this airy white focal. So what do you guys think?
Happy gardening. I'll see you next time.